You ever walk away from a conversation just feeling heavy? Not with your own troubles, but like you're suddenly carrying this inexplicable knot in your throat. You find yourself holding someone else's pain exactly as if it were your own. If you've ever hit that silent, totally unbearable moment where you're just utterly depleted for managing everyone else's feelings, well, you are definitely in the right place. Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're taking a deep dive into the root causes of that exact emotional drain, and more importantly, how we're going to finally dismantle it together.
Let's be totally honest for a second. Have you become an emotional emergency button? You know the exact role I'm talking about, right? You're the person people only press when they're in crisis, when they desperately need validation, or when they just want to dump the entire weight of their own failures squarely onto your shoulders. And you probably try to push through it with sheer willpower. You tell yourself you just need to be stronger, or more patient, or more disciplined in your kindness. But at the end of the day, all that's left is this bone-deep frustration and an emptiness you really can't quite explain.
So most of us think this inability to set boundaries is just a weak, shameful character flaw. But it turns out it's actually tied to something called cognitive ease. It's a neurobiological fact that your brain literally did not evolve for heroic self-control. No, your brain evolved for immediate survival, seeking quick rewards, and above all else, conserving energy. So listen to me, your lack of discipline in holding boundaries isn't some moral failing on your part. It's just an evolutionary reality. This whole myth of willpower, it completely falls apart when you see what you're really up against. On one side, you've got millions of years of evolutionary survival programming screaming at you to just keep the peace and conserve energy. And on the other side, you have heroic self-control, which is basically just you trying to force boundaries armed with nothing but a handful of motivational quotes. It doesn't work. Trying harder is exactly what's keeping you trapped. When you force yourself to carry the weight of the world through pure willpower, you're fighting a losing battle against your own biology.
To achieve true emotional sovereignty, here's our roadmap for this explainer. First, escaping the persona's prison. Second, the invisible blade of silence. Third, protecting your psychic energy. And finally, the terrifying leap.
Okay, let's dive into part 1, escaping the persona's prison and the very real danger of self-abandonment.
Carl Jung had this brilliant concept that perfectly defines the exact trap we fall into. The persona is basically this mask of collective convenience that we wear just to be loved and accepted. Think about it. Since childhood, so many of us were conditioned to believe that our worth lies entirely in how available we are to others, especially when they're hurting. You say you're fine when you're actually suffocating. You respond to messages immediately even when you are just completely exhausted. You wear this mask to make a definite impression, sure, but in doing so, you conceal your true nature. You abandon yourself.
And here is the brutal reality of wearing that mask all the time. Excessive availability doesn't make you a saint. It makes you a predictable tool. People often don't actually want the authentic you. They really don't want your complexities or your boundaries. They merely want the predictable role you play, that reliable receptacle for their emotional baggage. When you're always available, you just become a utility, and everything that is predictable becomes a tool for someone else's drama.
Let's break this down. When you operate from the persona, your state is completely predictable. You're just a receptacle for drama, blending right into the herd. Jung actually called this massification, which is surrendering to the collective mask. But stepping into the authentic self, that means your state is boundaried and sovereign. The outcome isn't blending in. It's the beautiful, though arduous process of individuation, becoming whole. When you finally stop carrying their pain, you aren't turning your back on the world at all. You are finally choosing your authentic self.
Moving right along to section 2, the invisible blade of silence, cutting through the noise.
We've all got this crazy, deeply ingrained compulsion to constantly explain ourselves, right? We think justifying our choices or explaining why we're absent is just us being polite. But that compulsion to explain is actually a poorly healed psychological wound. Every single time you over-explain, you're unconsciously seeking permission to exist. It's submission. Conscious unavailability, on the other hand, is entirely different. When you stop explaining yourself, you use silence as an invisible blade, which forces others to confront their own emptiness instead of feeding off your energy.
There's this philosophical stance inspired by Nietzsche that just hits the nail on the head here. True power actually lies in the absence of words. Silence isn't just an absence of noise. It's this overwhelming presence that disconcerts and destabilizes people. When you simply refuse to step into the theater of explanation, you're acting with an invisible blade that cuts right through manipulation. You completely break the masks of those who depend on your constant reactions to stay in control. All right, section 3, protecting your psychic energy and the actual mechanics of change.
Now, what's really interesting here is that your mind is basically a closed energy system. If willpower is a total myth, your true fuel for change is what Jung called psychic energy. And when you leave it unguarded, just look at where that psychic energy bleeds out. 40% of it is wasted on forcing immediate reactions. Another 40% is burning up as you ruminate on past slights, keeping these long-dead ghosts alive. And the remaining 20% bled dry in completely useless discussions. You're exhausted because you are literally bleeding vital energy, trying to manage other people's projections.
A healthy psyche keeps its energy safely within the system. To do this, we're going to borrow a concept from James Clear, choice architecture. You make energy conservation the path of least resistance by practicing strategic withdrawal. So, step 1, stop forcing immediate reactions. Step 2, take a step back and observe the dynamic neutrally. Step 3, just say no without providing a massive essay of guilt. Seriously, you don't need to draft a 3-paragraph text message apologizing for your boundaries. You just withdraw strategically. You stop being a reactive puppet and you become sovereign.
Which brings us to our final section, section 4, the terrifying leap. Going from a false life to an authentic life.
Listen, there is an absolute harsh reality to making this leap, and we need to look at it with zero guilt attached. Setting permanent boundaries is going to create social friction. You will lose people. You will absolutely be accused of being cold, arrogant, or just weird. But you have to understand this mechanically. The backlash you get from others is simply their reaction to losing their emotional emergency button. You have ceased being functional for their needs. To survive this, you have to resist massification. You have to refuse to be just a statistical cog in a system that values your conformity way more than your truth.
And here is the hard truth of the whole shebang. No one is coming to save you. No guru, no self-help book, and no explainer can walk this path for you. Healing depends entirely on your own radical responsibility. You've got to stop waiting for the perfect time to start. I really want you to know that the fear you feel when you set these boundaries isn't a warning for you to retreat, not at all. That fear is the exact threshold where your real sovereign life actually begins.
At first, when you stop being so available to everyone, there's going to be an incredibly uncomfortable silence. But eventually, that silence transforms into total presence. True emotional immunity is about expanding your awareness, not creating heavy armor. By inhabiting the depths of your authentic self, you begin to understand your own triggers. The actions of others might still cause you pain from time to time, sure, but because you know exactly who you are, they will no longer have the power to destroy you. You aren't broken, you're just being pushed to be born again.
So the crucial point is this profound realization waiting for you at the end of all this. The weak shout, the strong remain silent, and the wise choose when. When you finally stop outsourcing your self-esteem, when you drop that persona and start wielding the invisible blade of silence instead, you achieve this incredible state. You achieve the solitude of the strong. You no longer feel the need to win every single argument because you have finally stopped living on the surface.
We are right at the edge of your inner revolution now. The question isn't whether you have the willpower anymore. The question is whether you are willing to let the predictable version of yourself die so the sovereign version can actually live. So, will you leave a mark today? Will you declare it for yourself and type "I choose my peace" in the comments? Keep learning, keep building those boundaries, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.